Okay, so we're back. If you don't mind, thank you for sticking with us. Post a comment if you can now hear us talking. Sam, are people posting comments that they can hear us talking?
They're still saying we can't hear you.
Still saying that?
We have sound.
We have sound.
We have sound.
Thank you, Greg.
We're going to start all over again.
From the beginning.
I'm going to skip some of the chit chat. You just have to read my lips for that part because we're behind. I'm really sorry for wasting your time. Hi, it's Seth. I'm here with Marie.
Hello.
Marie is head coach at altMBA and has been with us a long time. altMBA 3.
altMBA 3. I was a student.
So all of our coaches, as far as I know, have, in fact, I do know,
It's
come
the
up through
truth.
the
They
program.
have all been through the program.
That's right. So
Yes.
you started with altMBA 3, and then you got a secret note from Kelly saying
did.
you're an extraordinary human. Do you want to join us for altMBA 4 as a coach?
Yes.
And now what are we up to?
We're on altMBA 16, 17, and 18. So I've been a coach since altMBA 4.
And how many coaches do we have working right now in the 3 that we're running?
Right now we have 30 coaches that are
That's
on our
incredible.
team right now, which is amazing.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And we kicked you upstairs. Now you're a head coach, which
Yep.
means that you're coordinating, training coaches in addition to being in the world with the students.
Yes.
Yeah. So what we came to talk about today is partly the altMBA, but mostly this distinction between mentors, coaches, and doing this work that makes us uncomfortable.
Yes.
Right? So I want to kick us off with my small rant about mentors. My friend Kat Hoke, whose new book is coming out in a couple of weeks, insists on calling me her mentor. I'm not her mentor. And there's this huge distinction that we need to address. The first problem with mentoring is it doesn't scale. That lots and lots of people say they want a mentor, but the number of people who can do that thing is very small.
Right.
The other problem is that it implies that there's a thoughtful, wise guru showing you the path. If you can find one of those people, go for it. But most people don't know the path. So showing you the path is really hard. How do you distinguish that sort of mystical mentoring from what you're talking about when we coach people?
Yeah, I think it's a really important distinction, and I want to highlight what Seth said about no one knows the path, and you're deciding your own path, and that's the journey that you're on. And so our posture as coaches is that we're not here to tell you the answer. We're not here to tell you where to go or what you should do. We're here to hold space for you, safe space, so that you can ask the tough questions, that you can figure out what the right answers are for you. So that to me is the distinction, and that's the hard work. But the coaches are there to support you and encourage you and help ask those really tough questions that you might know you need to talk about, but you need someone to help you unlock them.
That's right. And it's rare that a coach is a super successful, famous participant. You know, I took a swimming lesson that changed my life from a swimming coach who only had one arm and a big pot belly, and I don't think he knew how to swim. But he actually changed fundamentally the way many people at the Olympic level and below, I'm way below, swim, because he understood how to coach people by asking the right questions, by opening a door or two, if that's the door you wanted to go to.
Yeah. That makes me think about a lot of the important coaches that I've had in my life have been on sports teams, and what they've always done for me is the accountability.
Right.
And so knowing that I want to be there and I want to practice and I want to get better, or I want to figure out how I can do something that I may not know how to do right now, they're that accountability piece that says, I'll be here with you, I'll show up too, and I'll ask you those tough questions, and I'll help you learn how to swim.
Exactly.
Facebook bot is ready.
Okay, so Sam has pointed out that this bot that Fraser built is ready. All you got to do is go into the comments right below and type start. It doesn't even matter if you're watching live, you can do it later. But if you type start, capital S, small s, we don't care, you will start getting regular notes by Facebook Messenger. They'll point to interesting announcements, updates about Facebook Live, as well as the main reason we do it, which is to give you prompts that then point back to blog posts and other stuff from me. Hopefully, you will engage with them and actually write your own stuff on Facebook in response to these notes from Facebook Messenger. It's all an experiment. It could stop at any time. It comes with a 100% money back guarantee. If you don't like it, just type unsubscribe. You'll never hear from us again in this format. Of course, I'm going to still blather on. You can't make me stop doing that. Okay, so that was a great place to start.
Yes.
But we hinted and danced around this idea of the struggle.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's worth noting that everyone who's doing important work is struggling.
Absolutely.
And the reason is, if you know what to do next, it's not important. If you don't know what to do next, it's a struggle. So how does that fit into what you're building with Kelly and everyone else at the altMBA?
For me, the piece that really matters for having that is the safe space. So for us as a coach team and each cohort, so there's 120 students in each session, there's 20 to 25 people in your cohort, and each session has 2 coaches to support you. And so we're creating that safe space where you can dig into that and figure that out.
So I just want to put a pin in this to highlight it for people. There are more courses online than ever before. And in general, I think that's a good thing.
Yes.
But if you approach the course as a course creator by saying, what's the easiest way for me to do this? The easiest way is to film some videos and maybe add a few tests. And that's fine if you want to learn double entry bookkeeping. But if you want to deal with the struggle, the easy path as a course creator is exactly the wrong path. So what we set out to do when I developed the altMBA was to come up with the most difficult to run program I could imagine. And that's why it's small groups, not big groups, live coaches, alumni only, no videos, none. Every once in a while, someone like me will show up for a couple minutes, but that's it. Project-based. Everything we did was to make it as hard for us as possible. That's why we need 30 coaches for just a couple hundred people. It's an extraordinary ratio.
Yeah.
But we do that to help people cause a struggle and survive a struggle, to practice the struggle.
Yes.
So talk about that.
So when I think about the struggle, and every student throughout the altMBA is on that journey and asking themselves tough questions and hitting the struggle, and that's exactly the point. And so we want that to happen, and we want you to struggle. And so that safe space is that place where you can put your hand up, because when you're doing important work and you're not only showing up to do that really difficult thing, but you're also trying to find the energy and the support to keep doing it. That's what we do. We have a space where you can put your hand up and say, this is how I'm feeling, this is what I'm struggling, can I find someone else that might be on the same struggle as I am, the challenge? I'm going to reach out to my coach, I'm going to dig in with my learning group. It's giving you a place where you can be struggling and be doing important work and feel okay putting your hand up. Because I know from doing important work, and I know Seth does too, sometimes you need to be able to put your hand up, and you need to be able to say, this is really hard, and can you help me keep going? And
I've been able to do that with you, which is
yes.
a real privilege for me to be able to say, hey, Maria, I'm a little stuck here. So
yeah, and that's the part that I'm hooked on in the community is people where there's no judgment. There's just, I see you put your hand up, let's talk it out, let's unpack it, and I want to help you move forward.
So can people do this without the altMBA?
Yes.
Yes,
of
I
course.
agree, and I hope they do.
Yes,
they don't
and I want them to.
Yeah.
And the only reason I pause is because I've spent a minute thinking about how I would have done it if I hadn't taken the altMBA. And I know I would have figured it out. I know I definitely would have eventually. It would have taken me a lot longer. And I wouldn't have found other peers that are also wanting to do that and to do it faster rather than, later or never. Yeah,
but we can't serve that many people. And so the altMBA, my take on it is we're not trying to corner a market. We're not trying to build a big thing. We're trying to spark something, to be a catalyst. And if lots and lots of people figure out how to engage with the struggle on a regular basis, surrounding themselves with the people who will help them, that's a win. Yeah. That's the goal. Is the more people who run with this, the better. That's why we do these Facebook Lives, because we have no secrets. We're just trying to tell people this is a path. Yeah. And, the Facebook bot is up. And I also know our alumni love going and sharing with others and asking questions and becoming coaches themselves too. So it's this very, it's growing as we're doing it, even if we can only serve a certain small group of students at one time. And it's super cool when sometimes you look at the comments of these Facebook Lives and the alumni show up and they're like there too. Yeah. And it's great. Thank you for visiting. Sam, you want to do some Q&A?
Yeah. You ready?
Are we ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
We're ready.
You ready?
Awesome. Okay, so this is from Maddie. I moved to Philly a month ago and struggling to find my tribe. How do I get people to see me?
Great question, Maddie.
You want to chime in? You want me to go first?
I would say to Maddie, has she been doing the same thing repeatedly, or has she been testing lots of different approaches? Because sometimes if you're saying it one way, and you think it might be heard a certain way, you may need to try and say it a different way for that audience to hear you. And yeah, it just takes, for me, it's, taking and experimenting with lots of different people to find that tribe. And you may not know exactly what they look like, but they're out there somewhere. So keep going would be what I would say, Maddie, also.
I have two things that I add to that. The first one is most people who want to be heard intend to be generous. They want to be heard because they have something they want to share. But if you begin with, how can I be generous? Not, how can I be heard? It's way easier to be heard. If you can figure out where to find people that you can help with nothing in return to you.
Yeah, what can I give?
What can I give? Most institutions, most human beings, if you approach it that way, are open. No one says, don't open the door for me for this building. I want to open the door myself. So that's the tiniest version of generosity. A slightly bigger version of generosity is someone trips on the pavement, you help them up and walk them a block till they settle down. A slightly big, you can walk up the ratchet. And if you are the human who's showing up with that posture, people want you around.
Yeah.
And suddenly they say, well, what are you up to? Because they want to reciprocate. The second thing I'd add is when we come up with an intractable problem like this, one good question to ask yourself is, where's the fear? What are you afraid of? Because clearly, you're not invisible because you're invisible. You're invisible because of something you're doing or not doing. And if we could get clear with ourselves about what we're afraid of, it might be a little bit easier for you to work on that. Because dancing with your fear, you can't make it go away, but dancing with it is at the heart of the struggle.
All right, this one's from Kathy. Is the altMBA for any age and any level of experience in business?
Okay, so tell us about our friend in Wales.
Yes, absolutely. And we had an amazing student, and this is a shout out to Sheila. And
Hi, Sheila.
She was in her 80s when she took the course. So I'm not going to own a specific year because I can't remember. But
it's private,
Yeah, around in the 80s. And she, truly represented someone committed to a lifelong learning and being curious and choosing to lean into her fear. And she just brought so much insight and generosity to the course for being there and for being a part of it. So yes, any age, any experience. And we've had also students
and she was
in
from
high
Manx.
school.
She was Manx. Isle of Man.
Yeah.
That's what you call someone from the Isle of Man. Manx.
And we've also had a few right out of high school, very young students.
I think
as well.
I don't think we need anybody who's under 17. I think that would be inappropriate. But between 17 and 92, that's our range right there.
All right, this one from Marianne. Can you describe the project work done during the altMBA?
So before I turn this over to Marie, here's the one thing that we don't share before people sign up. We don't say, here's the list of the projects. Let me tell you why. Because if we did, you'd look at the projects and go, oh yeah, I get it. And then you wouldn't sign up. Because knowing what the project is different than doing it in a position of struggle. And so if we shared the list, we just have to make up new projects. Because we don't want people showing up saying, project 5, I know how to win that. This isn't about will it be on the test because there is no test. This isn't about winning because it's not a race. It's about this mutual engagement that we do where we surround ourselves with the right people so we can struggle together and practice. Every time we do one, we upgrade or replace one of the projects at least a bit. So they keep evolving, but basically, well, why don't you talk about what generically the process is of doing a project?
Yeah, so what I would add, and the way I describe the projects is they're actually conversations, and they're designed to be a conversation with yourself and also a conversation with your learning group. And through the process of having a conversation with each project, you do ship a very specific outcome, which is a post that other students read and they give you feedback on, but it's really designed to help you see the edges of your own thinking, to see new ways of thinking, and also to hear from other people in different industries, different backgrounds, all of those things so that you can formulate an even richer understanding of those ideas and concepts that we've put into those projects.
Exactly right. So while we're talking about this, Sam, we have a big date coming up. When is it?
Monday, February 5th.
And what happens on Monday, February 5th?
That's the early decision deadline.
So that's the last early deadline?
Yes.
And it's altmba.com/apply. Mm-hmm. And when's the final deadline, which
February
people shouldn't wait till?
February 19th.
February 19th. So after the 19th, that's it. And as always, we're going to be full, and we give preference to people who leap first. So if you're thinking about this, I encourage you to go check those links out. Okay, we got time for a couple more?
Yeah, we'll do 2 or 3 more.
Awesome.
You're having fun? We can
Yes, this is great.
All right, this one's from Sid. Who are the other coaches, and how are they chosen to join the team?
Seth mentioned this earlier. All of our coaches have also been students, and they are selected by their coaches in their cohort, and then based on the work that they're doing, how they're showing up generously for other students. So it really is the students who are living and representing the values of the altMBA in really meaningful ways. And so we have them and we train them, we do an amazing orientation, and they come on as coaches, and a lot of them are also return coaches. So we have several that have been in, like myself, altMBA 3 and 4 and 5, and throughout all the different iterations as well.
So the secret is, I used to help run a summer camp in Canada, and it's the joy of my life. And I can't run a summer camp anymore, but there are lots of lessons we learned from summer camp. And one of them is, far and away, the best counselors were campers. And they weren't the campers who were good at playing tennis or paddling a canoe. They were the campers who were good at being generous, at connecting, and at leading. And so that method has come into the altMBA. And what we found is that the coaches love what they do, and they all want to come back. So one of the reasons, selfishly, that we are growing the altMBA a bit is so that our coaches will be able to coach, because it's a great gig.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, this one's from Ross. My work is mostly remote. What's the secret to growing and nurturing a digital culture?
Ooh, okay. So I'm going to dive in on this one first.
Go, yeah.
Culture eats strategy for breakfast. Culture changes so much, first in the world we live in, but also for your institution, for your organization. And you may think you don't have a culture, but if you don't have a culture, that's a culture too. What we need to do as we build an institution is make very difficult decisions that don't pay off in the short run. That is the essence of culture. The culture is people like us do things like this. This is the way things are around here. So if you look at the work of Basecamp, usually used to be called 37 Signals, they are in dozens and dozens of cities. They're almost entirely virtual. But the two guys who run that organization continually blog about how they are building a culture. And it's a controversial culture. For example, they just announced 2 weeks ago that people in Cleveland will get paid the same amount as people in San Francisco, even though they don't need to do that, because it doesn't make sense actually to pay people in Cleveland more than you need to and pay people in San Francisco just enough. But that's what they've chosen to do. It's an act of culture building. So I guess my answer is, whatever you do, do it on purpose. Figure out how to spend the time and the effort. And Marie, you've really contributed to our culture. Do you want to contribute? And you've been doing it in other places too.
Yeah, I would. So distilling down some of Seth's highlights and points that he was making. So our team of coaches is remote. We have people in all the different time zones across the world. And I think it starts by caring. And that's something that Kelly, our provost, is unbelievable at. And she has set the culture of caring, which to Seth's point doesn't always feel efficient, because caring often takes more time, takes more energy, takes more commitment, takes more purpose. So it starts with caring, and then especially on a digital one is, how do you be human? And it might feel like, while I'm on the internet, that's not something that I know how to do, but figure that out, test that. How can you be human to the people that you're wanting to connect with? And then build that culture around caring for whatever the values or that culture building that you want to do is.
Fantastic. Great question, Sam.
Yeah.
I'm going to do one more.
It's all up to you.
All right, this one's from Dane. I'm gearing up for the spring session. Any advice on how to get the most from the coaches? I'm pretty disciplined, but I want to be pushed.
So I think it comes down to having a posture of openness and coming in with curiosity and being willing to, as Seth always says, the more that you give, the more that you get. And so for any incoming student, that I think those are really important reminders as you're coming in. What would you add?
I'm colored a little bit because I know Dane, and Dane's going to be an amazing contribution to the course. There's a big difference between feedback and advice.
Mm-hmm.
If you say to someone, do you have feedback for me? They're likely to freeze up. And if someone says, I have feedback for you, you're going to freeze up. Because feedback sounds like you're in trouble, you did something wrong, there's this need to defend. Advice, on the other hand, opens all sorts of possibility. So I think the way to begin, not just in altMBA, but wherever you're engaging, is to be able to say to somebody, do you have any advice on how I can solve this problem? Do you have advice on how I can make this writing better? Do you have advice? And that active participation turns out to be really difficult at the beginning, to be truly open. But once you develop it as a habit, you'll discover it's fuel for even better work. When you get advice, you're not allowed to defend your work, because now you're teaching the person who gave you advice not to give you advice ever again. When you get advice, you should say it back to the person in a way that shows you understood it. And then you should say, thank you. You can ignore it later, but you shouldn't explain why your other thing was right. You should say, oh, because that advice that person gave you was what they believed in that moment, at that time. That's a gift, a true gift.
Awesome.
How'd we do today? Sam thinks we did okay. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, thanks.